Story 1. Westward Journey. Come on, push. It's slipping, you beasts. Keep going. We set out from our home in the east with grand aspirations of a better life in the west. My father was in charge of our wagon, with my mother, my brother, and myself inside. We traveled alongside other families, such as an elderly gentleman named Samuel and his wife Rebecca, along with their children. We had all heard tales of how rich we would become in California. However, the journey was difficult from the very beginning. Initially, it was just minor issues. Our oxen grew exhausted traveling long distances over rough terrain. One day, a man named John became incensed because our cart was moving too slowly. He began swearing at our driver, shouting, "Hurry up, you fool, we're lagging behind." The driver replied angrily, "But the animals cannot go faster than this." The real trouble started when John decided to strike him with a stick. My father intervened to stop the argument, saying, "That's enough of it." But John attacked him as well. During the scuffle, my father was forced to pull out a knife for defense. John was badly injured and died. The group was furious. They held a meeting around the fire that night. A tall man named Lewis said, "He killed John. We can't have that here." Rebecca stood up in the meeting and argued. It was self-defense. Let's not make it worse. However, they ultimately decided that my father had to be left behind. My father hugged me tightly before riding away alone. "I'll find help and come back for you," he whispered to me. My mother was weeping, but we had to continue. We passed through parched lands where water was scarce and animals died of thirst. Our wagons got stuck in salt flats. Children fell ill. There was an old man who could no longer walk. We left him with some food and water near a stream, promising to send someone back for him. When we eventually returned, he was gone, and we assumed he had perished. No one wanted to speak of him again. Snow began to fall as we reached the mountains. It fell deep, burying our wagons by a lake. We constructed primitive shelters out of logs and animal hides, sharing the space with other family members. Food supplies were nearly non-existent. We finished our dried meat and were reduced to boiling animal hides into a foul paste. My young brother complained, "I'm starving, sister." I gave him my portion, but it wasn't enough. Days turned into weeks. People grew weak. One night, a baby from another family stopped crying. The mother wailed, "She's gone. Poor girl." We buried her in the frozen ground, though digging was nearly impossible in the frost. Samuel's brother died in his tent down the creek. His wife sat with her husband's body but said nothing. Desperate, a small group of us myself, my mother and our driver decided to try and escape on our own. We had to keep going. We attempted to travel on foot, but the snow was waist deep. We tied hides to our feet to make movement easier. After a few days, the cold became unbearable. "We have to turn back," my mother said, her voice trembling. "We'll die out here." We managed to return to the camp, though one man in our group didn't make it. Back at the camp, things had only grown more horrific. People were talking about eating the dead animals, and then, one evening, I overheard a conversation near the fire between Lewis and Samuel. "There is no use waiting any longer. The bodies are frozen, but they will keep us alive. Lewis said to Samuel, who shook his head. That's wrong. We must hold on until rescue comes. People went mad with hunger. A larger group decided to make another attempt to cross. They called it the Hopi Groppi Menus Disasechi people, including men, women, and children. I didn't join them, but I watched as they departed. They had only tiny amounts of food. Weeks later, we were told that while a few made it, most had died during the attempt. In our camp, an elderly woman named Lavina lost her mind. She spoke to herself, telling her children, "Eat the rug, children. It's all we have." The children were seen chewing on the hide rugs used for flooring. One morning, I woke up to find our driver dead outside. His body looked skeletal nothing but bones covered in skin. My mother pulled me away, saying, "Don't look, dear." Rescuers eventually arrived, though they came slowly. They looked tired and thin themselves. Among them was a man who had left before me. He said, "We have come to help you, but we can only save a few." They carried the weakest children first. I went with them, leaving my mother and brother behind. She promised, "I will come soon." The path was long, and the snow blinded us. One girl fell and could not get up. We tried to carry her, but she did not survive. At a distant farm, kind people gave us bread and milk. It actually hurt to eat. My father eventually found me there. He had made his way west and organized the rescuers. "You're safe now," he said, holding me. However, the horror at the campsite continued. Rescuers later extracted several lifeless bodies. Some had been forced to eat parts of the dead to stay alive. The last person to emerge was Lewis. He looked like a ghost. His stories were too horrific to be told. According to Lewis, Rebecca stayed with Samuel until they both died. We survived, yet the memories remain. The silent nights when hunger sounded louder than words, and the hollow faces of friends still haunt me. I ponder those mountains and shiver at the thought. Story 2. ENPTY Trail. I still remember this winter trip as if it happened only last week. My friend Tom and I had planned our winter excursion for quite some time. We were both nature lovers and felt that a trip into the snowy woods would be the perfect way to burn off the stress of the work week. We selected a destination within a national forest way up north, a place that was thickly wooded with trails that were seldom explored. It was our first winter camping trip, but we were well. We set out on Friday afternoon and found a beautiful spot with a frozen stream running through it. I went off to gather wood while Tom set up the tent. "This is a perfect spot," Tom said with a grin in his voice as he hammered in the stakes. Nobody around for miles. I couldn't help but agree. We spent a pleasant evening cooking hot dogs over the fire and reminiscing. The air was crisp, and the stars twinkled brightly. The following day, we woke up early to hike a trail that wound around a steep ravine. We traveled light, carrying only essentials: water, food, and our coats. Tom brought his binoculars for birdwatching, and I carried a knife on my belt, as I always found it handy. The trail was narrow and covered in fresh powder. As we walked, chatting about nothing in particular, we reached the ravine. The drop was steep, filled with jagged rocks and trees at the bottom. That was when I saw him. In the gully, about 50 feet away, stood a man. He was pale, dressed in tattered clothing that looked unwashed for weeks, and his eyes were locked directly onto us. In his hand was a long rifle. It rested on the ground, yet it seemed at the ready. I stopped breathing and grabbed Tom's arm. "Look," I whispered. Tom stopped, his eyes scanning until they landed on the man. The stranger didn't move. He just stared as if trying to place us. He shifted his position slightly, and the rifle barrel tilted upward, not aimed at us, but close enough to make me shudder. "Hey there," Tom said, trying to sound friendly. "You hunting?" The man didn't respond. He simply inclined his head and kept watching. His breath came out in slow, cold plumes. We stood there, frozen. I wanted to turn back, but the trail was narrow, and I feared that running would make things worse. "We should go," I urged Tom. Before we could move, the man spoke. His voice was as rough as gravel. "What are you doing here?" I looked at Tom and then back at the man. Tom replied, "Just hiking, enjoying the day." The man nodded, but there was no smile. "It's my spot. I don't like people around me." My mind was racing. Was he alone? Did he live out here? I saw the sunlight glint off the rifle and immediately thought he might be a drifter or something more sinister. But Tom remained calm. "No problem, man. We'll go back the way we came." The fellow took his time looking us over before slightly lowering the rifle and saying, "You do that, and don't come back." We slowly backed away, keeping our eyes on him until the trail rounded a bend and he was out of sight. Once he was gone, my legs felt weak, but I didn't run. I forced myself to walk as if everything was fine. "What's wrong with that guy?" Tom whispered once we were deeper into the woods. He looked like he wanted to use that gun. I just shook my head. "I don't know. Let's just get back to camp." The hike back seemed twice as long. I jumped at every snapping twig, wondering if he was following us. When we reached our tent, everything was exactly as we had left it. We stayed by the fire, but the evening had lost its charm. "Should we pack up and get out of here?" I asked. Tom thought for a moment. "It's getting late. Maybe we should stay the night and leave at first light." I agreed, but sleep wouldn't come. I lay awake listening to the wind, wondering if he was outside, watching. Around midnight, I heard it. Footsteps, soft at first, then the distinct crunch of snow outside our tent. Tom heard it too. His eyes snapped open. The footsteps circled loosely, deliberate and conscious. My heart hammered against my ribs. Was it an animal or him? I gripped my knife. "Who's there?" Tom yelled into the darkness. Silence. Then the footsteps stopped right outside our tent. A minute passed, and then, just as slowly, they started moving away into the trees. We didn't sleep at all after that. At dawn, we quickly dismantled our camp and threw everything into the truck. As we drove away, I looked back into the woods. I didn't see him, but I knew he was there. We reported the incident to the ranger station on the way home. The ranger nodded thoughtfully. "We've had reports of squatters out there," he said. "People living in the woods who aren't always friendly." Tom, and I haven't gone camping since. Every time I think about it, I see that man's eyes cold and empty and that rifle in his hands. What if we hadn't backed away? What if he had followed us all the way home? The thought still gives me chills. Story 3. Snowbound. Did you hear that? Yes, it's getting closer. We have to stay quiet. I remember loading up the old truck with tents and sleeping bags, imagining how much fun we would have camping in the woods, away from the hustle and bustle of the city. It was Tom's idea. He was an outdoorsy guy who was always enthusiastic about the idea of winter camping. Ben was quickly on board, suggesting it would be a great break from city life. Lisa and Anna joined in, lured by the promise of hot chocolate by the fire. We headed up the mountain, driving along winding forest roads. The truck handled well until we hit a series of rough bumps. Tom, ever the joker, made quips about building the largest snow fort ever. "Come on, guys," Tom joked. "This is going to be epic. No phones, no bosses, just us and nature." Ben nodded from the back seat. "Yeah, but if it gets too cold, I'm stealing all your blankets." Lisa rolled her eyes playfully. "You boys are such babies. Anna and I will show you how it's done." We found a flat spot sheltered by tall trees. It was tranquil and perfect for our 2 tents. While Anna and I set up 1 tent, Lisa and the guys went to gather firewood. "It's a nice spot," Anna said as she hammered a stake. "Peaceful." I nodded, feeling genuinely happy to be there with everyone. As the sun dipped low, we got the fire going and roasted marshmallows. Tom told a story about getting lost as a kid, waving a stick around for emphasis. My mum was so mad when I finally made it back. Everyone laughed. Lisa leaned in closer to the fire. "So, have any of you ever heard anything strange out here? Like animals or people?" Anna replied. "No, we're alone. That's the whole point." That night we zipped up. Anna and I were in 1 tent. Tom, Ben, and Lisa were in the other. I fell asleep quickly, exhausted. But in the middle of the night, a noise woke me. It was a low whistle, distant, yet perfectly audible. I sat up. Anna stirred. "What is that?" she whispered. "Sounds like someone calling," I replied, my heart racing. After a while, the whistling stopped. The next morning seemed normal at first, but when we went to the truck, it was buried in the snow that had fallen overnight. Tom tried to start it, but the engine only gave a pathetic whine. "Stuck good," Tom scowled. "We're going to have to dig." We spent hours digging and pushing, but the truck wouldn't budge. A heavy silence fell over the group. Tom mentioned a ranger station or a cabin nearby, and Ben agreed we couldn't stay forever as food was limited. Lisa looked worried. "I don't like this. It feels off." I felt it too, but said, "Let's stick together. We'll find something." We packed some gear and started walking along the road. After an hour, we spotted it. A small trailer parked off to the side, partially hidden by trees. It looked like an old Forest Service building with a metal door and tiny windows. "Hello," Tom yelled. Nothing. Ben tried the door, and it swung open. Inside, it was dark but stocked with cans of food, blankets, and even a heater. "Well, look at that," Ben said, a smile finally crossing his face. "We can wait until morning." We settled in, lighting the heater and opening some cans. Anna found a map on the wall. "Looks like we're miles from anywhere." Lisa paced nervously. "Why is it so empty? It feels like someone just left." Tom shrugged. Likely rangers. We're lucky we found it. We snuggled into our blankets. But before long, the noises returned. The whistling was back, and it was much closer. "Did you hear that?" Anna asked. Ben sat bolt upright. Tom went to the window. "It's nothing, just dark." Then a knock came at the door. We all froze. "Who's there?" Tom called out. No answer. The knock came, again insistent. Ben stood up. "Maybe someone needs help." Lisa grabbed his arm. "Don't open it." The knocking stopped, followed by the sound of footsteps crunching away. Anna stared at me. We should bar the door. We pushed a heavy table against it and sat in silence. Time became a blur. Then a voice came from outside, slurred and mumbling. "Help, cold." Tom listened. Sounds like a man. Ben reached for the table. "We can't leave him out there." Lisa shook her head. "No, it's a trick." Why didn't he answer before? Peering through a crack, I saw him a man in a hood, his clothes in tatters. "Let me in," he growled. I looked at Ben. "Who is that?" I called out. The man stepped forward, and I saw something shiny in his hand, something sharp. "Ben, close it." I screamed, but Ben wasn't fast enough. The man threw himself against the door, forcing it open. Ben fell back as the stranger lunged inside. Chaos erupted. Tom grabbed a chair and swung it, hitting the man's arm. The man dropped a knife, but continued his advance, lunging for Lisa. She shrieked, kicking at him. Anna and I pulled her away. "Run," Tom yelled. We burst out the door into the freezing darkness, the man grunting behind us. We scattered into the trees, slipping in the deep snow. I heard shouts Tom calling for Ben, Lisa's terrified cry. I ran with Anna, but she tripped. "Go," she gasped. I helped her up, but he was close. I could hear his heavy, ragged breathing. We hid behind a dense bush, staying deathly still. The footsteps passed us, then circled back. I don't know how long we stayed there. The shouting eventually stopped, replaced by a haunting silence. "Tom, Ben," I whispered once, but Anna hushed me. "He's still out there." When dawn finally broke, we crept back to the trailer. The door was wide open. The interior was a shambles, with small drops of blood on the floor. Our friends were gone. "Where are they?" Anna asked, her voice trembling. We searched the area, calling their names. We found Ben's torn jacket on a branch, Lisa's scarf in the snow, and Tom's hat even further away. We walked along the road until we finally found help. The authorities believed the attacker was a drifter who lived in those woods. Later, they found the bodies of our friends, scattered as if they had been hunted through the trees. Anna and I managed to escape, but that whistling still echoes in my dreams. We never went camping again.